This time on Captain Chaos's Laboratory, we're going to be working on Starlight Dance Hall from the North Pole series of Department 56. And as you can tell, there's two of them here. Basically, the owner would like one of these to work. And apparently they don't work. So we're going to find out what's going on. So one's going to be a parts house, or maybe I can get both of them working. So they both came in their boxes. One came with paperwork, one didn't. They both came with the adapters. I'm only going to use one adapter, so I don't have to take up a whole bunch of my outlets, because the adapters are large and it covers one plug adapter covers two outlets. So plug it in, plug it in. Whoo, there we go. This one appears to be working just fine. Except the window fell out, which is right there. This one has the main light bulb right there. That is not inside, but yeah, she looks to be doing okay. The fiber optics that are making this happen are only on these three windows. This window, because it's the back, is just going to light up. No fiber optics. So it needs a little glue to hold that in. It's changing colors, as you can see. So the pinwheel's working. So I'm going to have to say that this is going to be the better choice. There is a sign that goes right here. Both of these have the sign. They're in their packaging. That way they don't get lost and or broken. So, yeah. I'm going to have to say that this is the one we use. This is a limited edition run according to the bottom. It says this is number 4,220 of 25,000. You can see it right there on the sticker. So this one just needs the window glued in, because it's working like it's supposed to. So let's turn it off and try this one. Really tight plug. And if it's really tight and you try and pry in here to pop it open, you see the hole? Make sure it's unplugged. That's 120 volts right there. Yeah, you'll have a electrifying experience if you don't. I'm going to assume this one doesn't have its main pinwheel light since it's sitting right there. But let's see. Let's see if anything happens. Nothing. Kind of figured that. So let's open the bottom. Oh, and this one is 15,287 of 25,000. See it right there. So there's no glare. And apparently wherever it was from was $75. So just to be safe, I'm going to unplug the AC adapter. And this is what I mean by its size. So if I plug it in upside down on the top, it only covers the one. But if I plug it in right side up on the top, it covers the second outlet too. Which means I need to have three outlets available to plug it in, and I normally only have two outlets to plug these in, sometimes three. So, on the bottom, we have two screws for the access for that bulb. This bulb says it is 100. The bulb says it's 12 volts. I'm sorry, it's not 120 volts. It's got an AC adapter. 12 volts AC. My bad. I'm stupid there for a second. So if you put it in here to pry it apart, you'll still get a little bit of spark, but you'll make this thing overheat. I don't know why I said it was 120. That's my bad. So this puts out 12 volts AC. So this is a 12 volt light. Technically it's AC or DC, and incandescent bulbs don't care. So scratch the first part where I said you could get electrocuted. You can still get a tingle, but it's not going to kill you. Oh, it's been been a long day apparently. Can't even read. All right. I like this new kit. And again, I appreciate the person that sent it to me. This aluminum screwdriver thing feels great. It's got a nice weight. Spins great. I'm assuming they got it from Amazon. I could be wrong. It's Master Craft. I'm sure you can find it anywhere. But half these bits I'll probably never use. The bit's really hard to get out. They're really tight. So I mean, if you just knock it over, you're probably not going to spill a whole bunch of them. But it's really got a nice weight compared to the ones like this, which are plastic. They still work, but they're also longer and they don't have much weight because, again, they're plastic, so they're front heavy because there's a metal shank, and then this is probably just hollow plastic with a spinning top. So, yeah, there's no bulb right there. There's the bracketry for the bulb. The bulb doesn't look bad, but we can test this outside of here. I mean, there's two ways to test it. You can just plug it in, or you can test it with a, you can test continuity on a voltmeter. You can also test it with another power supply. Hell, if you had a 9-volt battery lying around, you could test it across a 9-volt. They do. No, the leads are just a little too far apart. No lights. I'm going to assume this is a bad bulb. So, if you don't have the ability to test it with something outside of its own power, and you're not sure if this is bad, or this is bad, and you want to isolate the bulb separately, you can use a 9-volt battery and put something to take up the gap. But you can go on a multimeter to the ohms, and if the filament is connected or has conductivity, that should change. You can see it's not changing, because that's what normally would happen. You can see it starts changing. So this is most likely a blown light bulb. It happens. You can get these on Amazon. I know I've linked to them once before. I can try and find the link. I might have one in a box of stuff that may fit in here. Oh, it was the Castle, the Department 56 Black Castle or something, Castle Black. I forgot the name of it. The one that I worked on, part of the problem was it had a bad light bulb. And then I used the wrong light bulb to show you how it works until the right light bulb arrived. And that way it was fit correctly inside of its bracketry. So that's the video that I can order those from. And I did get it from Amazon. So I'll relink that below. Let me see what I can find if I have a 12-volt bulb, whether it's this size or not, as far as voltage same, but dimensions different, just to see if this pinwheel's spinning. Because what he told me was the pinwheel wasn't turning, and the pinwheel is what changes the colors on the fiber optics. And I can might have one in here too. I can show you what one looks like outside of the unit. Because pinwheels are very common on things that have fiber optics. That's what changes the colors and gives you that wavy effect as it goes from white to blue to orange to purple, so on and so forth. So bear with me. I'm going to see if I can find a bulb that fits in here so we can test it all. And I'll see if I have a pinwheel that I can grab and show you outside of a unit. Because to remove this pinwheel, we're going to have to get this base probably hot, or see if this will just pry out because it's glued in. And go from there. So let me see what we can do. Let me see what I have. And I shall return. All right, I am back. So I do have a 12-volt light. It's physically larger. It fits in the socket. You can see the size difference. And these are pinwheels. So what's in here is something similar to these These are much larger. You can tell by the dimension of the house. These are 120 volts, and this one is 12 volts. So how it works is, of course, the motor gets power. It turns. The wheel turns. The fiber optics are pointed right above the light. So the light's right here, so the fiber optic cluster would come out. And as this turns, that's how you get your transition of colors. So the fiber optics will go white and ripple with the lines because the light doesn't shine through the black. Then it'll ripple into the blue, the green, the red, ripple white, green, red, purple, and then back to the ripple white. On that one. On this one, you have, these are opaque, or gels if they weren't glass. These are glass, the other one's plastic. Because these are 120 volts, and the light bulb that goes here is a 120 volt version of this. So that's why this one and that one is glass. Because glass isn't going to be affected by the heat. So we have blue, purple, green, and clear. And this one spins, and because of the angle, because they're squared, you get a sharp edge, no ripple effect, so it just transitions at an angle. And then this guy is also 120 volts. This one, just like the other ones that look like this, clear is blank. There's nothing there. So you get pure white light. Then you got your purple, you got your green opaque. This one's kind of a purple blue. This one's blue. This one's green and pink. And this one's kind of a whitish gray, and then that's yellow. It's hard to tell because they're opaque, so depending on how the light hits them, you can see they start changing colors. So, and that is so the light that shines through here, as it reflects at different angles through the fiber optic bundle, it looks like you have more colors than you really do. This only has, what, 8 pie pieces, and it looks like you got 24 as an example. So pinwheels have been around for a long, long time. They're very, very popular on fiber optic pieces, especially from the 70s and 80s. So, and that's how these get their colors. Now let's see. I know the light works. So, I don't know if it'll fit in here though. I don't think it's going to fit through the hole. It might. Nope, doesn't fit through the hole. So I'm going to shine the light just through the bottom, and I'm going to see if the colors change. And the colors are changing, as you can probably see right there. So this pinwheel is working too. This one just needs a bulb. But you can see the fiber optics are changing. I'm not going to keep this on too long because that's getting warm. Incandescent bulbs get hot. So, there we go. Starting to get a little toasty there. So let this out so it can cool. And then I can look in here. I'll see if the camera can show it. See the reflector? That's the pinwheel. That's the edge right there is between blue and purple. You can kind of see it when I move the camera, or the thing on the light with the camera. Off to this side is purple, blue, and white stripes. And off to this side is red, white, and black stripes. So, the pinwheel's working. The fiber optic cluster, I can see it through the bottom. Let me kill some lights, and I'll show you the fiber optic cluster through the pinwheel. And then we'll turn the lights on, and maybe we'll pop this one open and see what size, or what size shaft, because the motor is a 12 volt synchronous motor, but we'll see what size shaft it has, if it's a square shaft, a D shaft, a circular shaft, press on, screwed, so on and so forth. Maybe get your part number, so if you have this piece and you have a bad motor, your pinwheel's not turning, you can get it. Then I can link the light below as well, which is just a 12 volt 3 watt small incandescent light. A lot of these you'll see in track lighting, but they're bigger than this, but you can see the size difference. So this is approximately 1 inch, and This one is a little under 1.5 inches, about 1.33 inches for the face. The pins on these are pretty standard. They're usually just push pins. Some of the higher powered ones though, they call them like G10s, and they have a little bubble or a ball or a piece on the bottom so they can cam lock in so they don't fall out, because they don't want you to have them arc, especially in track lighting. If these were pointing down in track lighting, and as things drive by, big trucks that vibrate, they'll just pull out, and then this thing falls and they're glass. So, you know, come home to shattered glass on your floor. That would be that. So let's kill a few lights, like I said, and then we're going to reverse the fiber optics so you can see how they work. Nice and dark. We'll try my cell phone flashlight since it's bright. You can see. So I'm going to try and hold this. See the fiber optics? See how it, now it looks like a C in there. Then I come over here and it fills in more of the gap. And if I come over here, it fills in more of the gap. That's how the fiber optics work. The fiber optics are taking the light and transferring it out. And you can see the pinwheel better. You can see the stripes and the stripes that I was telling you about. So, yeah. Lights are coming back, and the flashlight's coming off. One more. All right. Let's see. There it is. Big old zip tie. Let's see if these will just pop off or if we're going to have to apply heat. The glue's brittle. It's an older piece. Just had to find an edge I could grab. There we go. I'm gonna have to apparently walk it. Apply heat. Apparently the bottom does not want to separate. And as far as parts pieces go, this is the one I'd use as a parts piece, or the one you wouldn't keep, because it's a higher number. And most collectors want a lower number, closer to 0 or 1. And this one being 15,000, and that one being whatever I said, 2 or 4,000. 4,000. That would be higher collectible because it's closer to the first number. All right, let's see if that does it. Yes, it's starting to separate easier now. Problem is it's so hot that the glue not only is separating, but as soon as it slips, it's starting to readhere because it's hot glue. Let's see if I can cut some of these glue strings. Back into place. Click. So there we go. We have a plastic pinwheel. The base did crack, and the motor has no markings on the side, so we're going to have to unscrew the motor to see the markings on the bottom. Alrighty. Oh, sorry. This was in the breadboarding, some LED drivers, and that was in the box that had the light. I just realized I left it out. Just gonna screw this in so it stops getting in my way. So, if you have this piece, light should be relatively easy to find, and like I said, I'll link it below when I do find it. And then the pinwheel is pretty standard. Now, if your screwdriver doesn't fit on either side, you can remove the pinwheel itself. I think I'll be able to get this to break free, or I can use a narrower shaft, which allows me a straighter angle. Or if you hear a rattling and you notice your lights aren't working, meaning it's not changing colors, most likely this came unscrewed, because it does happen. It's not common. And you just need to take the bottom out and screw it back on. If you're concerned with it unscrewing again, you can put a little nail polish on the threads and screw it back together. Or you can use a Loctite, or you can put a dab of glue on there. White glue, like Elmer's, or even hot glue, or super glue if you don't ever want to take it apart. So there we go. This is a AC 12 volt, 50-60 Hz, 2.5 watt, 10 to 12 RPM clockwise rotation. This one is an AM3 made by Anyi, ANNYIH, Precise something Co. Ltd. I think it says IND. Some of the Anyi motors aren't available anymore, but as long as it's a synchronous motor of the approximate power consumption, you're fine. If it spins slower, it means your transition's slower. If it spins faster, it means your transition's faster. I probably wouldn't go much higher than maybe 3.5 watts, because I know that finding OEM motors is a pain. Synchronous motors, as popular as they are, they're kind of getting rid of some, and sometimes it's hard to find the exact one. I know a lot of the replacements also don't just have single tabs anymore. They have tabs that have 4 holes, and that's for different positions, or because of the torque that they can do extra mounting. So when you look for a synchronous motor, you can look for the information that I just gave you, and you can also go by measurements, meaning the diameter of the body. It's usually going to be in millimeters. And then this is a long shaft, cylindrical, with a thread hole right there. So you would want to get a long shaft because it has to clear the light bulb. If you get a short shaft, it's not going to clear a light bulb. But you can extend the shaft, and I've shown that once before. On one of the ski ramp ones, you can get like a circuit board standoff and thread it in. So here's a long shaft, but it's also a long shaft with what they call a D, and it's also threaded. This one is 127 volts AC, so it wouldn't work in here unless you converted this to 110 to 120 volt light, and then you remove the power supply and plugged it right in. But it's the same height shaft. What I'm getting at. The diameter is slightly bigger because this is a bigger motor because it's a more powerful motor. And this is what I'm talking about, the double mounts. Some have them, some don't. This is also a brand new motor. This one is a 12 volt motor. It's the same as this one. Double mounts, but this one's got a short shaft. This one is also riveted in. This gear does not come off. It looks like that's a Phillips or a square. It's not. It's actually riveted in. Kind of a stupid thing to do. So when this motor snaps the gear or dies, you have to throw it all away and find one that's exactly the same. Kind of a stupid idea, but that's how they make their money. And this one is brand new, and it's an On-Yi. So they still do make them. You just have to match up the shaft. So diameter and shaft. Those are the two big things on synchronous motors. Here's another one. It's a medium shaft, but it's got a heavy reinforcement because it can handle a lot more torque without this thing flexing. This one's 11 volts. You can see this one's got 3 holes. It's also bigger. And if you were to use this one with a press on, it would be too short. The light would hit it. So, height of the shaft, diameter of the body. And lastly, but not leastly, this is also an AC 12 volt. This one is slightly larger. It's got the 4 holes. Medium shaft. It's a double flat with a thread. And it is just barely high enough to clear the bracketry. So that light bulb would be sitting really close to this plastic disc, which means you would warp this disc. Not enough height. So you can use a computer standoff, which are the threaded things that circuit boards stick on that lift them up so they don't touch the back what they're screwed to. And you can thread it into the hole. They come with different thread pitches, so you just have to match the thread that's in here to the thread pitch of the standoff. Excuse me. You can also, if you really, really want to, and let's say the is bigger, you can drill that out and then re-tap it. Again, you might be going outside of your skill level. But there are thousands of synchronous motors out there to replace that one if yours is dead. And you just have to go through diameter of the body, length of the shaft, and if it's threaded, you definitely want a threaded one because of the screw. And make sure it's a 12 volt AC. This one, CW, counterclockwise, clockwise. Every time you turn this thing on and off, it changes direction. So one time it's going left, next time it's going right, or if it binds up, it reverses to try and free itself up. This one's 4 watt. That one's only 2.5. I wouldn't go much higher than that in that. And this is also 4.5 RPM, which means revolutions per minute. That one was like 10, 12. So this one spins at just under 50%, which means these lights would have a much slower transition rate. So if you're like, oh, this thing would be cool if it was a little slower, you can replace it with a slower motor. If you get one that's 2022 R/M or RPM, some actually say RPM, then your lights would move a lot faster. So it's preference or availability. What do you have to do, or what is available to do it with? And there's an arrow right here. It might be hard to see. It tells you that's where this comes out of, in case you didn't know. So it can match up to the cut in the porcelain. Also, there's your fiber optic bundle. Comes in and sticks out right here. And then what they do is, this one feels glued, because there's also a little lip right here of glue. A lot of times they bundle them and then they melt them, because they're usually, the fiber optics are plastic or acrylic. They're not glass anymore like they used to be in the old days. But it looks like they may have used a glue, whether it be a hard glue or an epoxy glue that stays relatively clear so it can transfer the light properly. So whatever this stuff is hard as a rock, but when it's warm, it's like super sticky. So it's probably a type of hot glue. I'm not sure. It's yellow. I just know the yellow stuff when it gets hot gets really sticky. So, but this one needs a light, and then you can put this one back together, and then I can fix the crack with some epoxy glue and take care of the crack on the base. So that's how you get into it, hopefully without cracking the bottom. And then that's how you change the motor. To change the light, it has a little access panel with 2 screws. I'll link the light below. It's held in with springs. This fits in the socket, and this keeps tension on it so it doesn't fall out. And this attaches those springs, and that's why there's little holes. You can see the holes on both sides of the ring. And that keeps tension, so as you pack this, move it, store it, blah, 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 it doesn't shift and cause this to fall out inside the house, because then, 1, it may not light up, and 2, if this breaks, then you got glass floating in here, and you know, it's bad. They also do make these bulbs in plastic. I do have some. I have them in 9, 3, and 12 volt, like this, but they're plastic. I am not going to lie to you. After a long time of running them, they start to change shape, because even at 12 volts, they're still incandescent. They start to melt. And you can hear there's glass up here. The plastic ones don't have this glass, and that's so the heat can escape out easier, which means if you were to get a plastic one, which again they're not as common, the heat escaping up could damage that plastic disc. So you definitely need this space, and you probably want to go with the ones that have the cover. This one does not have the cover. You can see I stick my finger inside the light. Can't stick my finger inside the light. So, but they come in both styles, with and without glass facing. So, and then they come in glass, so you can drop it and break it like I almost did. And they come in plastic. I'll tell you to stick with the glass, just because it has a little bit longer lifespan than the plastics, especially if you're going to run this hours at a time, which most people do in their displays. So, you know, again, preferences. So, now, let's see what this one looks like, since this one's fully functional, with the lights off. Do a dark review, and then I'll let the owner know that one works, one doesn't, and if they want a light, I'll order the light, and we'll get it taken care of. And then he can have 2, or he can sell one, or whatever he wants to do with it, have a backup, because, you know, people's displays, sometimes things happen. Before I do that, I'm going to put a dab of hot glue, or excuse me, hot glue, jeez, doing so good, super glue on here, and glue this window in real fast. I'm not going to put a whole bunch. I can see the bead they had across the bottom, and then they have a spot here and a spot here. I want to pretty much just imitate what they did. Here we go, if I can get it to come out. I store these upside down, and it still doesn't want to come out. I've had people tell me storing them upside down is bad. It means you glue the cap on. Never had the cap get glued on. As long as the cap is tight, they never glued on. Because it takes air and moisture to make super glue work. So I put the tops on, and then this is how I store them. I've never had a problem. Now when I store them this way, I can never get the damn caps off. So, and I learned that trick from the glues I use in my job. Plumbing glues, they tell you to store them upside down. Not because they'll glue the caps on, because the caps can vent the off-gassing, the chemical, which makes the glue, of course, bond. So, I'm just going to hold it for a second here, make sure that the window stays in, let the super glue do its thing, and then we're going to see what this thing looks like in low light or dark, because it should look pretty cool. Y'all know I'm not a big Christmas person, but I do appreciate the colorings that they do, the lighting. And last but not least, there we go. Because it's a bright white light, you do get bleed through the porcelain. As you can tell, you can see that's my hands as the windows, but you can see the bleed through. It's not horrible, but you can see the lines rippling as it goes across the different patterns. Well, that really swamps out the camera. It helps a little. You can only see the lights changing. I'm trying to darken it a little bit. The camera's dying, so it's having a harder time adjusting to light, but you can kind of see it. You can definitely see it on the reflections. So in person looks pretty cool. You got the white lights coming through the doors, white light coming through the door, just the light bleeding through the outside, and just the light bleeding through the outside. The tree, you can see the tree clearly because it's a shadowing effect. Of course, this is the back, so this is the front. The sign goes right there. You can see the hole. That's where the sign goes, so it hangs off to the side over the back door. The little line thing here, or sign, says lessons nightly, discount tickets available. On this side it says refreshments every night. This sign here, I don't know, I can't read it, it's not lit, so I'm going to turn on the light, and the camera's out of focus. Focus! There you go. Dance lessons, snowshoe trot, polar polka, and twilight twist, and it's the Starlight Dance Hall. So, I'll link below the light. I will link below the motor if I can find one, and that's how you open it up. I would heat the bottom. I know I didn't do it when I tried because the corner had separated. Heat the bottom, get it apart. If you need to replace the motor, unscrew the 2 screws, pull the spring up, pull out your light, swap it out, put them back together. It's 12 volts AC. Shock hazard's pretty low. I still wouldn't recommend prying this apart with the power on because you don't want to damage that AC adapter. That's just melted foam from the packaging. It's not a damaged cord. You can see it just comes off. It's Arizona. You store stuff in foam outside, it's going to eventually get stuck to other things. So, anyhow, hopefully it helped. But that's how you disassemble Department 56, Snow Village, Starlight Dance Hall to replace the motor or light, or service the pinwheel if it comes apart, unscrews, so on. And then, yeah, then you saw what it kind of looks like in the dark. Again, swaps out the camera, and until we can find a good quality camera, it's going to happen for a while. Don't forget, every month this year, we're giving away a prize, Halloween and or Christmas, throughout the entire year. Doesn't cost anything to you. United States residents, leave a comment below the video for the drawing. It'll always say drawing. And you may get a free village accessory or village piece from the Random Junk channel. The one we just drew for was April. Today is actually May 2nd. And so you get an idea when this thing posts, how long it's between I'm doing it and then it gets edited. There was a Department 56 train car that are super sought after since they, well, until this year discontinued the line. This year they're coming out with the Silver Bullet, which is either a standalone piece or you can add it to your existing Haunted Rail series. So, but we'll have Christmas and Halloween throughout the entire year. Each is a different. Each month will be a different piece, and yeah, you might win something that you don't have, or you might win something you already have. Oh. But anyhow, free. Comment below the drawing video, please, and then thanks for watching this one. Until the next video, have a good one. All right, we are back with the Starlight Dance Hall. Sorry, I got some lights in to fix the one. So I got the OEM light, which is right here, or as close to the OEM light as possible, is rephrase that. It's not the one directly from them. You can see, same bulb. This is the bad one. But I also decided to order, they come in 2 packs of the LED equivalent, which means that this won't get as hot and draw less power, which technically means that your power supply would be under less stress, so you get longer life out of it. So let's take a look at one of these LED lights and see the difference. Because since I have a good one right here that's on with the incandescent, we can put the LED in, which also is approximately the same size. It's got slightly larger face, I believe. Nope, same face. Oh, I should have just tested it this way. Perfect. And let's see if we get about the same color spectrum. And if that's the case, then we can also, in the future, we can change these to a lower consumption, cooler running light. Now, do not get me wrong, LEDs do run hot, and they can run hot. They don't always run hot. That's why a lot of LEDs have heat sinks. So, right there. Alright, I was trying to pull it off so I can get this in easier, but I guess I'll just slide it in. I don't want to break the motor. There's the light. Now we can test it without putting all the clips on. So I have both of them here. Here's the other one. So let's fire this up. Do I have a bad power supply? They're both plugged in. That's weird. No, power supply is good. Good connection. No. I think I know what's wrong. I guess I should probably turn it on. So you can see that's pretty bright. So let's see how it looks in there. I'm just going to take this off so I can shove it inside and not have to reassemble this thing right away, so we can actually do a complete test. Of course, without it being glued in, it wants to flop around, so I'll do my best to show this on camera. So there we go. Kill some lights. So there's one. And let's turn off this other guy back here. Alright, so here's the aerial incandescent LED. The LED is brighter. The bleed through. You can definitely see it more on the edges. I know the camera shows the whole thing, but I think part of it's the shadowing, since there's a window right there. Try and block out some of the light. There we go. Oh, that's better. This place is almost completely dark now. So the LED one is brighter, both you can see on the camera and visually. It's not that much brighter. The camera's picking it up a little stronger than the actual intensity is. So now we'll turn it sideways so we can see the brightness that comes through the windows and here. And you can kind of see the coloring, the change. This one will take me just a second longer since it's not glued in to realign it once I tip it. There we go. So, what I can see that's visually different, because I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up very well. Let's get this back square. There we go. Is this has a more yellowish pink color because of the way the light's reflecting back off of the rotating disc. These two holes are pretty much just a yellow white, which is more of a soft white. So this looks more like real light. To me, this looks more like stained glass reflection. The bleed through on the actual ceramic, yes, this has again more bleed through because it's technically brighter. It was the lowest wattage I could find, but the wattage equivalent is still slightly higher than the OEM bulb by, I think, 2 watts. Which, when you're doing small things, that's a lot of power. When you're doing big things, 2 watts is not negligible. But this is a very small piece. Now, as far as the pinwheel goes, the actual fiber optics, they look identical to me. As far as how the light's coming through, the perceived colors of the pinwheel. Technically, this would be a more truer color because LEDs give you a little bit cleaner light. But the mesh, the windows, the faux glass, these have, when it's on the clear color, a more yellowish. When this is on the clear color, it has a white look. So again, you have a softer appearance here, also slightly dimmer, and a brighter appearance here, slightly brighter. So either one would work. Now technically, this one would last longer because LEDs usually have a longer lifespan than incandescents, and they draw less power and they don't get as hot. So you have a whole bunch of advantages. One of the disadvantages is, of course, on this one it's brighter. If you don't want brighter, then, well, don't go with the LED. But you can dim the LED. There's many ways to do it. Anything from putting a resistor in line to some people will take a marker and cover the LED with a film from the marker, kind of like using a gel. It works for a while. Eventually the marker residue will wear off. You can use a gel, put a yellowish or a golden gel. It'll dim the light down, get you more to this color. But personal preference. If you're trying to save money, or you're trying to lower the consumption of power draw, especially on those transformers, I would go with the LED. If you're going for OEM look and you don't care about the heat generated from the 12-volt light, then stick with the incandescent. But there's a difference between the two. You can tell the house on the left with the LED is brighter, does stand out more. The house on the right with the incandescent is not as bright or dimmer, and it will probably fade more into your background. It is still a very bright piece. It has a lot of bleed through the ceramic. So lights are coming back. The owner wanted both of them fixed since both of them are repairable. I will ask the owner if they want to keep one LED or one incandescent, or if they want both of them to be the incandescent, which is why I bought both bulbs. And this is the same link from the Department 56 Castle Black, I think it was. I always forget the name of the castle that I put in there. I chested the link. It still works. So I'll relink this below for the OEM bulb. And then I will also link the LED bulb, which comes in a 2-pack. If you get the 2-pack, that means if you have another house that has the same bulb and it burns out, you'll have a spare. I'm going to turn on the other light 1 second. So all we need is to glue this in and ask him which bulb. You can see the intensity. I can't believe I forgot about the power switch. I just finished working on another one. There was no power switch. It was just a direct power. So that's what I was used to. Put this one in just so you can see. Also, I should probably check it to see if it got damaged in shipping, because that would be bad. So, kinda, the little leg is bent over. It's a problem with these when the legs get bent. They don't like to go into their socket very well. So there's the white one that's going to get hot. And you can see that when it turns on, because it's got a transformer, it has to power on. You see that delay. While the LED is instant on. That's because the wattage draw on this bulb, because it's incandescent, the power supply is running at a smooth power, and then it dips when this light turns on at the same time as the motor, because they're both high consumption components. It's called peak or break on a motor power. Once it's running, it smooths out, which is why the light gets bright again. But on the LED, it's instant on, less draw. So that's why I'm saying if you went to the LED conversion or equivalent, your transformer should last longer. Less strain on that transformer. And even though these things are large, it only puts out, does it even say? Yeah, 800 milliamps, or an eighth of an amp. When you go to this, you're drawing a lot less power. And I guess because they work on AC or DC, why don't we just quickly check on a power meter, which, just from direct power, which one works at a lower amperage. So, grab my little meter here. Incandescent bulbs can run AC or DC, and LEDs are only DC. They're usually rectified. Let's see if I can get it even to fire up. It draws too much power to start it. Alright, 12 volts right there. Yeah, my meter can't even, or excuse me, my machine can't even fire that thing up. Let's try a different machine. One that's got a higher amperage rating. It'll take me just a second because I don't keep it plugged in because it's not variable. Go. Well, it also will not turn it on. Well, I feel stupid now. The spike power to get that bulb to fire up is higher than the peak output of the small machines I have. There's another one I have that will work because it works with this. Let me dig that out and we'll do a power comparison of the two bulbs, just to give you guys an idea what you're looking at for consumption. Granted, it probably won't affect your electricity bill too much over the course of a season, but I'm also going by the pressure put on that. I just gotta find it. So what this does is it gives you a readout of power. So I just need to get an extension cord to bring it over here so you can see it. But this is how I tested my entire display. I plugged in my power strips into this to tell me how much power I'm drawing. One, to ensure I'm not overloading my wall sockets, and two, to ensure I'm not overloading the breakers that run that room. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to grab an extension cord so I can actually have this on screen and you can see it with me versus plugged into a power strip in the corner where you can't see it because it's mounted to, well, it's riveted to my bench. So I'll be back in just a second. Alright, I'm back, and apparently I found the shortest cord possible, but that's the only one I could find. So how this works is it tells you your wattage, amperage, voltage, etc. And this has a cost estimator on what it would cost you on electricity. Let's see if I remove this light, will it get rid of some of the glare? No. So here's the LED. So with the LED and the motor running, it's pulling 4 watts. That's great. We can go into, I got 120.9 volts coming in, and it's pulling 0.051 amps. And it's so low. Now it's 2.1 watts. So it's smoothed out. Alright, so that's the LED. This is the incandescent house right there. Give it a second to calibrate. Actually, I think I have to go back to the, there we go. Sorry, I was on the wrong one. So, just to show you, it was pulling 13.3. So I will reset the unit. So it's back to 0 just to make sure there's no problems. .2 watts for the incandescent bulb. That's what I'm talking about, how it'll prolong the life of these transformers if you change them to LED. So if we go back to cell 120 volts, and it's pulling in 0.113 amps. So it went from 1/20th of an amp to 1/10th of an amp. So that is a big power difference between the two. Let's see if it recalibrates. It should recalibrate. But how this works is it goes by the power consumption. There we go. 4 watts again. So this is how I tested my stuff to make sure I used it mainly on this to check my amperage drop. Because what we're talking about here is most houses are 15 or 20 amp breakers on 120 volts here in the United States. And I have 100 and some odd houses and accessories plugged in. So I was checking what my actual power consumption was at the wall socket for all the adapters plugged into power strips. And we had the room upgraded to 20 amp, and it's only pulling like 8 or 9, which is surprising. But all my incandescent houses, I've changed over to LED. So when you change them over to LED, it does a hell of a change, because it, you can see, there goes the amperage again. It jumps right up. So you don't have to buy one of these machines. They're not that expensive. They're I think like $30 or $40 if you really wanted one. I bought this because I saw a electronics YouTuber I watch use it, and I'm like, this could come in handy since I have a room dedicated to the village, and I want to make sure that we're not I'm not overpowering my wall sockets and risk a wall socket fire. So that's what's nice about LEDs, is they run less power. Of course, we all know that. That's where everything's going to it. So I can, if you're interested in one of these, I can put this in the link below. But it basically tests your wattage, your kilowatts, which these aren't strong enough to even make that turn, your voltage and your amperage, and it gives you a cost estimator at the bottom of what you're going to be spending. But unfortunately, I never use that function. I don't press the cost button because everybody's electricity costs different, and the way things go, it might cost a penny today and $6 tomorrow. So, But it's a multi-function system, and I think I've used it like 6 times for my personal stuff. But that's how I test my power. I don't just test it with a a voltmeter like this. This will test it too, but it's a little bit more. You have to get more intrusive with the leads. Whereas this, everything's right here, and then you just press the buttons. It does come with an instruction manual. That way, in case you don't know how to use it. But you just hit the function to go through the different options, and as you saw, it said watts, kilowatts, high wattage, low wattage. It gives you the peaks, it gives you the amperage, the voltage, and that is the draw here, not on this end. So that's what the transformer is getting pulled through. Transformers always have a draw. They're always doing a job when they're plugged in, even if nothing else is plugged in. So under full load, the LED is going to save you money. So, which most people are probably like, duh. So outside of that, that's it. So you can go with incandescent, or you can convert your stuff to LED. If you convert your stuff to LED, you can look for different ratings. This is a 12 volt, works AC or DC, which most LEDs do. It runs 12 to 24 volts. It's called the 12 volt monster. Ooh, except it's itty bitty, so I'd probably call it 12 volt midget or something. But it does use the 50/50 LED cobs. If you are familiar with LEDs, the 50/50s is the ones I prefer. But it is what it is. It is a 3000 K temperature range, which is a little brighter or colder in the light spectrum. That's why it's whiter or shines more through. You can look for these in different color temperatures, but when I looked for the bulb, this is what was suggested as a direct replacement. Of course, this is going to be a little more yellow than the LEDs, and because this is just one point of light and this has 6, this technically would be a little bit brighter. But then this uses a reflector. I mean, there's a whole discussion out there on how you can rate or test your lights. But I'm going to leave this one LED and give it back to him and see what he likes, or let him see it and see what he likes. If he doesn't, we'll just unscrew the bottom and change the bulb. Not terribly difficult. But that is it. That is the Starlight Dance Hall. Showing you how to open it up if you need to get inside and fix anything internally. Try not to crack it. I'm still going to fix that. And then how to change the bulb, which is very simple. You don't have to take the bottom off. You just have to unscrew the 2 plate holes on the bottom. You don't have to remove the whole thing. And where you can get the replacement OEM bulb or the aftermarket LED bulb. And if you really want it, I'll put a link to the power consumption meter. So you can test your houses individually or as a unit if you have it plugged into a power strip. You just plug the power strip into that, and it tells you how much power your power strip is pulling to power your village or village sections, vignettes, so on and so forth. So anyway, thanks for watching this one. Until the next one.